I'm Ada Show. In today's local news, statistics show shocking truth of growing income inequality in New Zealand, while petrol prices hit another record high since March. And exciting news for the environment, as an amazing car has been developed to run on air. New Zealand has been ranked as one of the world's most overvalued housing markets. Christy Jar reports.
The housing sector has been enjoying some sort of a boom in recent months, but according to The Economist magazine, which tracks price movements in 21 countries, New Zealand is bucking global downtrends as one of the most overvalued markets in the world. The Economist rates house prices compared to rents and incomes, and it finds that on that criteria, New Zealand at 66% is the second most expensive country in the world, behind Canada. If compared to disposable income, New Zealand would be the sixth most overvalued on the list, the same as Spain and only behind countries like Belgium and the Netherlands. But experts say our market is driven by a lack of supply.
New Zealand house prices haven't had the same correction that we've seen in offshore markets. Now those markets, particularly in the US, in Ireland and in Spain, we saw a greater extent of boom and bust in their construction industry. Those markets have a huge oversupply of housing to contend with.
The Economist ranking is also done on long-term averages based on the two comparisons, and New Zealand is put in 5th place at 44% overvalued, just behind Hong Kong, Singapore, Belgium and Canada. Jane Turner says the country is yet to see a meaningful pickup in construction levels, particularly relative to population growth, so continued upward pressure on house prices is likely. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
The ugly truth about salary gap widens. Amy Chen has more.
A strategic pay survey revealed an average base salary for CEOs rising almost 10% to $315,000, more than a minimum wage earner in 1 year on approximately $28,000 per annum. Increasingly, New Zealanders are uniting around a call for a more equitable society where all workers receive a living wage. Until the very lowest pay rates are increased, the equity gap will grow, and with it, poverty in New Zealand. With youth unemployment numbers on the rise, the average New Zealand worker getting older and more Kiwis flying over the ditch, it's no shocker to find the average chief executive salary rising more than ordinary working families. This year's minimum wage increase of 50 cents came under scrutiny and labelled stingy. The union, along with other 70 community organisations, is planning a Wellington launch of Living Wage Aotearoa New Zealand in Wellington next week. Amy Chen, 9 News.
The annual New Zealand Diversity Awards are presented at Aotea Centre on Monday. KHR reports.
New Zealand is changing face. In the past 2 decades, New Zealand has revolved into a nation with more cultural and ethnic diversity, which is recognised and celebrated.
But I think New Zealand has an opportunity to present itself through this extraordinary diversity, and the fact that we're not overly huge in terms of our population, as an exemplar of inclusivity, preeminent amongst all nations.
This year, Human Rights Commission presented the New Zealand Diversity Award at Aotea Centre to participants in the New Zealand Diversity Action Programme.
So the thing about the program and about diversity is that people in their own way are making a difference to their particular community.
The New Zealand Diversity Awards recipients range from community trusts, non-profit organisations to networking groups that has made commendable contributions to the diversity action in New Zealand.
For the organisations that are involved, sometimes they might not realise that what they've done has value and importance beyond their own geographical area, or they might have been really innovative and creative, which are the criteria for the awards.
To be part of the Diversity Action Programme, each member has to present a project every year, and the awards have been an inspiration and encouragement for diversity movements since 2007. Kay Chow, 9 News.
According to Statistics New Zealand, there's a record high number of Kiwis leaving for Australia in July, reaching to over 39,000 in the year ended on July 31st. ASB economist Christina Leung said with recent employment data showing labour demand in Australia stronger than in New Zealand, the trend in departures was likely to continue for the rest of the year. Prices at the pump are again on the rise following drops seen in May and June. Christy Zhao reports.
Petrol prices are on the rise again after continuing fall seen in May and June. A litre of 91 octane at the pump is now costing you $2.20, the highest it's been since March, and just 2 cents below the record high in May 2011. Earlier this month, the government pushed up prices by 2 cents a litre after hiking excise tax, and international crude oil is currently sitting at around $110 a barrel. Economists say the downstream impact will be apparent.
It's a bit difficult for households to change their driving habits overnight, so it does act as a tax. It takes money out of households' disposable income, and we will see spending reduced in other areas.
The New Zealand dollar is also sitting on a perch at 81 US cents, but even though it's hurting exporters, there is still an upside.
New Zealand dollar is quite elevated at the moment, and this is buffering New Zealand consumers from the worst of the increase in petrol prices.
If the dollar was down to 60 US cents and assuming the international prices were at today's level, then motorists would be paying $2.60 to $2.65 a litre at the pump. Experts have predicted that if tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate, then more pressure would be felt on oil prices. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Tired of escalating petrol prices and wondering when a new technology will be available to phase out combustion engines? Keisha has a story that brings light at the end of the tunnel.
Small and economical cars are on demand in big cities, but that doesn't solve the problem of rising petrol costs. The good news is the Indian auto manufacturer Tata Motors is testing tiny urban car that runs on compressed air. Designed by Motor Development International from Luxembourg, this airpod brings a carbon-neutral, zero-emission alternative that seems to make a dinosaur out of cars that run on petrol. But compressed air is not completely new. It has been used to power trams in France since the late 19th century. The vehicle reaches a top speed of 70 kilometers per hour. The special car works by extracting air pressure from its storage tank on board, which refills itself either through an external pump or while driving with the help of a complementary electric motor. It is said that the car has a range of over 200 kilometers and it only takes around 2 minutes to fill the tank, costing approximately €1 to fill. The vehicle has been under development for several years, but the buzz is that the commercial version should be available in the near future for about €10,000. Kay Chow, 9 News.
Figures have been released showing 1 million callers to the IRD hung up their call in frustration before it had been answered last year. Another 260,000 gave up after being placed on hold. Labour MP Chris Hipkins blames job losses have taken a huge toll on the frontline customer services. The annual 3-day culinary fair took place earlier this week. Christy Zhao went along to have a look.
Top chefs from around the country putting their culinary skills to the test. More than 800 participants took part in the competitions, and this year a public day was added to the event calendar, attracting thousands of food aficionados through the door.
There's nothing more exciting than seeing a competition live. You really get to feel the emotion in the air and the excitement. It's great.
The fair was the largest cooking competition in the Southern Hemisphere, where cooks of all disciplines competed for various awards, including Chef of the Year, Apprenticeship of the Year, and Bartender of the Year. Many were using the opportunity to beef up their skills and profiles.
When you're preparing for competition, it really refines your skills and it gives you an opportunity to advance and learn about maybe an area of the culinary arts that you hadn't thought of before. We encourage innovative behavior, creative thinking, and essentially the people you see competing here today will be our stars tomorrow.
Visitors were treated to free food and giveaways while marveling at the wonders of life-size cakes and margarine sculptures. The economic benefit of the culinary fair is estimated at approximately $1 million. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Did you know there's a New Zealand Latte Arts Championship? This year's winner makes coffee designs. Amy Chin reports.
Making coffee is simple, but to pour a perfect foamy creation cup, not so much. Add other imaginative designs and you've got a contest for the best coffee art. This year's winner, Jerry Dan, adopted the art as a hobby when he first encountered coffee, expressing how he feels about the win.
这可以算是一种肯定吧，因为我一直在不断的练习这个 latte art， 所以这次也比较幸运的这样得到了冠军。
Zhang will go to Korea for the World Latte Art Championship early November and is enthused at the opportunity.
我主要是想去认识多点那个这国际的选手，就是互相交流一下吧。
There were two parts in the competition where a single creative pattern is produced and the other on stage where two identical free pour lattes and two identical designer lattes were produced. Amy Chen, 9 News.
Now we have our TV9 host from Asia Focus, Julie Nixon, to comment on housing prices buck world trend.
House prices are once again in the spotlight, with The Economist magazine claiming that this country has one of the world's most overvalued housing markets. The magazine, which tracks price movements in 21 countries, said years of dizzying price rises were coming to an end for much of the world, but not in New Zealand. Compared with the amount of rental income our houses generate, we rank second most expensive in the world, behind Canada. According to The Economist, our houses are 66% overvalued. When compared with the disposable incomes of New Zealanders, our houses are 22% overvalued. The average figure based on the two comparisons, that is compared with rents and incomes, suggests our houses are 44% overvalued. That puts New Zealand in 5th place in the overvalued stakes, behind Hong Kong, Singapore, Belgium and Canada. According to the magazine, house prices fell in 12 of the 21 countries that were surveyed. In the United States, prices now stand at 19% below fair value after dropping a third from their 2006 peak. Bucking the trend, our house prices were up 3.3% compared with a year ago. The reason why New Zealand house prices are so high is that we don't have an oversupply of housing, and there are supply constraints in places like Auckland and Christchurch. When supply is constrained, prices go up. That's the economics of supply and demand. So where do house prices go from here? Well, with the advent of spring, prospective buyers can only hope that more properties come on the market. Turnover is rising and now stands at over 69,000 sales for the past year, the highest total since February 2010. So clearly demand is strong. Last week, a two-bedroom house in the Auckland suburb of Sandringham, valued at around $720,000, fetched over $1 million at auction. It's cases like this that have led the so-called international experts to conclude that houses in this country are overvalued. But the one thing they're not taking into account is that New Zealand is a great place to live. That's why people want to invest here.
Welcome back.